I'd like to take a quick poll to see how our audience feel about the topic being debated today. Greening existing infrastructure should be prioritised over investment into new clean energy projects. Do you agree, disagree, or are you undecided? So it seems that 44% agree, 22% disagree, and 34% are undecided. So it seems like our debaters have some work to do today to convince you of these.
I think that poll was maybe an initial fascinating kind of indicator as to how divided people are on this topic, and even undecided, because it is a big area of uncertainty going forward. I think the motion that we're going to be discussing today does pose an important question for Europe and the world as it grapples with climate change, the energy transition, and how to reach a kind of a zero carbon future.
Let me start by asking the following question. What is easier, is to buy a new Rolls-Royce and get rid of your Fiat 500, or make your Fiat 500 evolve to become a Rolls-Royce?
Focusing on investment on new clean energy projects without taking a holistic view can really miss the target in terms of CO2 saving. And my example will be electricity generation in Germany. Germany is really at the forefront of investment in renewable, but nevertheless, if you look at the Germany generation, the massive investment in renewable has been, the effect has been mostly to replace carbon-free nuclear by renewable. And today, the share of coal in the electricity mix is still the highest share of electricity generation at 36.2%. So I think it's a good example of how prioritizing investment in new clean project, which is the easy part, as I think Maya explained really well, without taking a holistic view of your infrastructure, is not an effective way of investing to reduce carbon emission.
But I don't agree with the statement that greening existing infrastructure should be prioritized over building a new infrastructure. I believe we will not make these targets if we continue to burn capital by simply upgrading existing polluting infrastructure and making marginal changes. I believe it should be a priority to collectively boost renewable energy assets until the point of grid parity. So at that point, the market really solves the problem itself. That is common practice. So my final topic that I wanted to discuss is the energy system as a whole. So the energy system used to be basically transporting kilowatt hours from power plant to consumer, but a new system with decentralized generation, storage and usage requires multi-directional energy flows, which are very hard to monitor, especially in the low voltage grid. So this requires new infrastructure, mainly smart software platforms that can balance these flows and avoid massive power outages. So as Maher says, keep the lights on. That's not possible without this new smart grid software infrastructure.
I mean, we always get back to this discussion whenever we talk about renewable energy at a large scale. You need a huge storage solution. We need lithium, we need copper. It's also limited resources. But let's not forget that currently we are building our entire economies on limited resources, on coal, oil, and natural gas.
The transition is not just about keeping the light on. It's about moving away from one paradigm to another and bearing the cost all over time. So the exercise is obviously quite complicated, because you cannot just simply calculate the cost that you're facing now and the cost that you're facing at the end point. You need to factor in all the costs that you face all over the course of the transition.
Think about the batteries. Okay,
yeah, of course.
What is the overall life cycle of a battery? Are we recycling them? How clean is the chemicals that you have there?
We agree, I think, that the costs of clean energy and batteries are declining exponentially. So it is in the total cost of ownership, batteries are already cheaper for electric vehicles, but in total, in acquisition costs, we're very near that point as well. In some countries, we already are. So what we believe is that we need to invest both private and public money into this cost parity, plus also the green charging infrastructure and the new smart grid infrastructure to sustain this, because then the rest of the economy will do the work by itself.
Give me 30 seconds, because I think this sounds a lot to me. This is about international cooperation. If we in Europe cannot even cooperate and having a pan-European grid, I mean, we're using different frequencies in different parts of Europe, then how would we start distributing these renewables that we put in? This is also about getting investment in clean new infrastructure. It's about building new high voltage direct current grids pan-Europe to distribute this renewable power evenly.
Interesting debate, because it is such a complex situation. There's a real question of each country, almost each geography, each locality. If you were to go down to, you know, maybe if you're in Africa, each village, or each town, each region in Germany will all be different in how it thinks about this problem, precisely because there's a legacy that you need to consider, as well as the opportunity, and a lot is evolving right now.